Jesse Jackson's funeral just happened. And before we get into some of the things that were said, I just want to remind you what the family requested before the funeral even happened, because a lot of people were talking about this, folks. And this was said. So this post here was shared February 19th, 2026. I just want you to hear what the family requested after Jesse Jackson died. Listen to this.
Funerals were not for the dearly departed. He believed funerals were for the living. He believed that they were great gathering meetings, and no two life or lives in human history will have the same number of people attending their funerals, or the same people will be at their funerals, because your friends ain't my friends ain't your friends. We don't know the same people. You don't know the same people that I know. Do not bring your politics out of respect to Reverend Jesse Jackson and the life that he lived to these homegoing services.
What was the request? Do not bring your politics to Jesse Jackson's homecoming services. Now hold on to that, because it appears some people did not listen to the family's wishes.
Come respectful and come to say thank you. But these homegoing services are welcome to all. Democrat, Republican, liberal, and conservative, right wing, left wing, because his life is broad enough to cover the full spectrum of what it means to be an American. We only ask people to come and be respectful in the context of the extraordinary life that he lived. Dad would have wanted us to have a great meeting to discuss our differences, to find ways of moving forward and moving together. And if his life becomes a turning point in our national political discourse, amen. We expect a grand meeting of people who are beneficiaries of the life and the work of Jesse Jackson. We expect it from the far right, and they are welcome if they come respectfully. And we expect it from the far left. Honor Mrs. Jesse Jackson. This is her request. Caricature that you've created as a media of who our father is not the reality of who we know him to be. So what's happening now on social media is a more accurate depiction of the work of Jesse Jackson, and it's happening and occurring without you. That's the truth. Because institutional media has historically controlled the narrative of who Jesse Jackson is. You've made him to be more controversial than he was. You've made him less multinational than he is. You've tried to make him someone from a side of town and not universal. And so again, the caricature of who you think he was compared to the reality of the education campaign that is taking place independent of you is what's taking place. My mother said it this way: history is going to be far kinder to Jesse Jackson than the life that he lived.
Okay, so this is the request of the family. They were asking people, do not make it political. Of course, those that were going to have a speech, those that were going to be speaking, don't make it political. Our father, would not have wanted that. But that's exactly what people did. So to show you some of the people who were there, you got Kamala, Hillary Clinton, Bill Clinton, Barack Obama, Jill Biden, and Joe Biden at the front row, but a lot of political people that were there. Now, I'm just going to go ahead and say, I have to be clear there, because Al Sharpton is also a part of this as well. He's just not in that picture. But I have to say, some people pointed out, well, you invited all these people who are politicians to speak, but you didn't want them to get political. I get that as well, but they could have just talked about Jesse Jackson's legacy. And I think you're going to see what I mean, because some people went there. Some people went there. Let's start with Gustavo Petro from Colombia. So he decided, and there was a translator for him. I guess he took this as an opportunity to say the Trump administration needs to move away from Benjamin Netanyahu. Listen to him here.
A toda la familia Jackson, mi sentido pésame, mi solidaridad en momentos que se vuelven difíciles. Vivimos tiempos difíciles.
To the entire Jackson family, my condolences. These are difficult times and you have my solidarity.
No puedo, como la mayoría de los que aquí han hablado, expresarme en torno a anécdotas, a vida conjunta con Jesse Jackson, al que conocí una vez y al que condecoré con uno de las grandes condecoraciones de la República de Colombia.
Like others who've spoken today, I cannot, or unlike others, I cannot share anecdotes from personal experiences, even though I did once meet Jesse Jackson, and I also gave him an award that is the highest honor that one can receive in Colombia.
Lo hice porque representaba para mí un símbolo viviente de la lucha por la libertad de los pueblos africanos traídos a la fuerza en todas las Américas.
I did so because I saw him as a living symbol of the struggle to uphold the legacy of all of the Africans who had been brought across the seas by force.
Yo vengo del país de la belleza.
So you heard part of what he said there. Let's get to the second part here. So he never met Jesse Jackson, which he said there, but he did give Jesse Jackson an award. Now, at this part, they try to take the microphone away from him. And I just want to show you what he says here.
I conclude my remarks.
Hoy es el momento, decía,
This is the time
de que el presidente de Estados Unidos, mirando el retrato de Lincoln, él y yo personalmente,
the President of the United States and I together were looking at the portrait of Lincoln
ante un bonito jardín de rosas que él diseñó.
in the face of the rose garden that he's
Yo soy
redesigned.
como Jackson en esto de la palabra.
And I know I've run out of time.
Pueda separar.
So you see, he said he ran out of time. So you see, when they start playing the music, that's the cue. But he continued to say this part.
Completamente
Can be completely separated
de quien lo lleva a él y a la humanidad a un abismo.
from that which is taking him and humankind to an abyss.
Separarse de Netanyahu es necesario.
He must move away from Netanyahu.
Separarse de quien lanza misiles contra niños y niñas en el planeta Tierra.
And from those who launch missiles against the planet Earth.
Separarse de los misiles y hablar de un pacto por la vida.
So Gustavo said that President Trump and them need to move away from Benjamin Netanyahu and from those who launch missiles. So he used that as an opportunity, I guess, to basically compare how Jesse Jackson treated some of the world leaders and how some of the current politicians of today have treated some of those same, countries. And that was something that we pointed out before, that Jesse Jackson was willing to talk to people in Cuba. He was willing to talk to people in the Arab countries. He was willing to talk about the Palestinian struggle and not demonize them. And so he takes that and he uses it and he says that Donald Trump needs to move away from Benjamin Netanyahu. Now, to that point, it's not just Donald Trump. All those people, let me bring this back up here. All these people that you see sitting right up here in the front row, all align with that same ideology and strategy. Now, they may have criticism here and there, but they're all pro-Israel. They all support the Greater Israel Project. They all support Zionism. So it's not just Donald Trump. I hope that Petro understands that. All right. So that was Petro. Now, let's go to what Kamala Harris said. And this is where, again, goes directly against the family wishes, where they said, do not make this political. Kamala not only makes it political, but she also tends to make this about her. Listen to her here.
So let me just say, I predicted a lot about what's happening right now. I'm not into saying I told you so, but we did see it coming.
So that part right there has nothing to do with Jesse Jackson, right? So the family said, don't make it political. So she said she predicted a lot of these things, but that wasn't what the request was. Don't make it political. Let's just talk about the legacy of Jesse Jackson. Kamala Harris, till this day, still doesn't want to take any accountability. Like, I swear to God, like, before I got into political YouTube, I've never met people or heard people as stubborn before in my life, not willing to take any accountability. Because as much as you predicted, Kamala, there were 2 demands that were made of you that you refused to do. And it seems like to me, like she still won't let this go. She's still holding on to the fact of, well, look, I was right. You guys should have chose me, instead of saying, I was right about this. But at the same time, there were demands and there were asks of me that I was not willing to do. That's taking accountability. She won't do that. Let's continue.
But what I did not predict is that we would not have Jesse Jackson with us right now to help us get through this. And so from a young age, we know that Reverend Jackson saw that the doors had been closed to the millions of people across our nation and throughout the world who were otherwise so deserving. And they were doors, of course, to opportunity, to equity, to justice, to freedom. And so he dedicated his life, as we all know, to breaking down those barriers. So when we are speaking of these doors, I will share with you that as a child, I was raised that when you see a closed door, you must knock and wait to be invited in. What life has taught me is that if that invitation is not offered, and if that door remains shut, even after repeated attempts to knock on said door, sometimes you have no choice but just to kick that door open. Reverend Jackson was impatient. He did not waste time waiting. Even when the doors in front of him were barred and bolted, even if those on the other side hesitated or even ignored him, he always devised a way through.
So Kamala found a way to make it about her. But she wasn't the only one, because it gets crazier, right? Jesse Jackson, his friend Al Sharpton decided to also make this political.
To leave here and not follow an assignment would not be what Jesse Jackson taught us. But people at the same time are killing illegal immigrants. People at the same time cutting public funding. At the same time, Affordable Care Act is not being renewed and seniors have to deal with premiums. Well, here we are now. The problem is not Trump. The problem is us. Sitting up here talking about, oh, they got all the power. We can't win. We got to win because they put the seeds of victory in us. If we just nurture them and grow, Hakeem Jeffries be the Speaker of the House. If we keep on winning, we'll get the Senate back. If we keep winning, we can save health care for our grandmamas.
So now he has gone full into if we keep on winning. So he's talking about if the Democratic Party can keep on winning. The same people that you saw sitting in that front row were able to make it so that people like Jesse Jackson would not get into the White House. You hear me? The same gatekeepers, the same donors that donate to both parties made it so that someone like Jesse Jackson would not get into the White House. They also made it so that Bernie Sanders would not get into the White House. You understand what I'm saying? So who's the we that Al Sharpton is speaking of? So now we've gone from a funeral to let's talk about how the Democratic Party can win. This is not the place for that. That's the part I think that bothered a lot of people about what took place here at the funeral. They took this opportunity because it had a lot of coverage. They have a microphone, took this opportunity to make it about the Democratic Party instead of just focusing on Jesse Jackson and who he did and who he was. It reminded me of what happened at Charlie Kirk's memorial, where some of the speakers got up there and decided to make that about them. This is the partisan brain rot.
If we keep winning, we can bring about criminal justice reform. If we keep winning, we can have 2 Jackson boys in the Congress. We didn't come this far to turn around now, but they getting ready to celebrate.
Who stopped people like Jesse Jackson from getting further politically? No, it wasn't just the Republican Party. It was the Democratic Party as well. Because he was running on a populist campaign before Bernie Sanders did. And they said, no, that's going too far. No. You cannot have a bill that establishes self-determination for the Palestinian people. Chuck Schumer came in and shot it down. Those were Democrats who went against Jesse Jackson.
The 250th anniversary of the country, but we were not free in 1776. It is not our celebration. We got here in 1619. We worked 246 years and never got paid, but we are still here. I don't care what they do in Washington. I care what we do in the community. We beat people bigger than Trump. We fought people harder than them if we stand up and be what we're supposed to be.
Because of Jesse, the Democratic Party changed its rules, ending the winner-take-all distribution of delegates.
Now we're going into Obama.
During presidential primaries, which meant underdogs and outsiders like Bill Clinton or Bernie Sanders could stay competitive and build momentum instead of getting knocked out early.
Pause. So here we go. He's calling Bill Clinton an underdog, an outsider. He definitely wasn't an outsider. Maybe he was considered an underdog when he ran the first time because it was basically supposed to be a re-election campaign for George H.W. Bush. That didn't turn out that way. But come on. He was not an outsider. He was very much inside and very much a part of the team with the donor class and with the establishment. Barack Obama mentioned Bernie Sanders, but it was Barack Obama who picked up the phone and told people not to vote for Bernie Sanders. It was Barack Obama who picked up the phone and told all those other candidates in 2020 that they needed to drop out to help Joe Biden win. Do you see the amount of gaslighting that is done to the people? So this is just, we have to call these things out. Now, a lot of people will hear this and they're like, oh, it's Obama speaking, so we just got to nod and clap and yada, yada. That's how we end up in the situation that we're in right now because we nodded and we clapped because it was Obama. So we weren't supposed to question. That's how we got here. So he stands up here to pretend like he had nothing to do with keeping these things out. He very much protected the status quo. And yeah, it was someone like Jesse Jackson that paved the way for someone like Barack Obama. But Jesse Jackson did not run the type of campaign that Barack Obama ran.
And it was because of that path that he had laid, because of his courage, his audacity, that 2 decades later, a young black senator from Chicago South Side would even be taken seriously as a candidate for the presidential nomination. Each day we wake up to some new assault on our democratic institutions. Another setback to the idea of the rule of law, an offense to common decency. Every day you wake up to things you just didn't think were possible. Each day we're told by those in high office to fear each other and to turn on each other, and that some Americans count more than others, and that some don't even count at all. Everywhere we see greed and bigotry being celebrated, and bullying and mockery masquerading as strength. We see science and expertise denigrated, while ignorance and dishonesty and cruelty and corruption are reaping untold rewards. Every single day we see that. And it's hard to hope.
You know,
all of them participate in the corruption via the donor class. So the Democratic Party isn't excluded from that. Now, to Obama's point, when he says like every day it's something different. Yeah, he's right. It's chaotic. It's crazy out here in these streets. Sounds like the Democratic Party should have made a decision a long time ago and said, we're going to be the opposition party. We're not going to take big money. We're going to get rid of Citizens United so they can stop coming in and say that corporations are people. We're going to run populist campaigns. We're going to be the party for the working class. That's what it sounded like should have happened. But it didn't. The problem is you guys decided to go along with the same establishment, the same donors that benefit the Republican Party. See, you try to be Republican light and just maybe better on some social issues. And you wonder why someone like Donald Trump was able to get in and win. Let's remember, Barack Obama served 2 consecutive terms, and then it was handed over to Donald Trump. That should tell you something about where his presidency also went wrong. Not being there for the working class people. But the point is, this was Jesse Jackson's funeral. It is like they turned this into like a Democratic Party campaign, like rah-rah moment when the family asked them not to do that. That's the problem. Now we go on to see here. You guys already saw the Kamala part. Joe Biden, I guess, also decided to make it about him as well.
If I told you all earlier when I was a kid I had a cleft palate or a club foot, none of you would have laughed. But it's okay to laugh at stuttering. I'm not being critical of you, but think about it. It's the one place where people think you're stupid. Oh, really? I'm a hell of a lot smarter than most of you. But all kidding aside.
Joe Biden decides to take this as an opportunity to go down memory lane about him, about his life, about what he went through. Decides to make it about him. If you guys have ever been to funerals, and I've never seen people do this. Like, this is just weird to me that people decided to take it. Oh, let me make it about me. Right? You look at the people that are sitting in that row, and you look at the people that Jesse Jackson actually sat down and talked to. Jesse Jackson hugging Yasser Arafat versus Kamala, who wouldn't allow a Palestinian voice to speak at the DNC. This woman stands for nothing. So no, they're not one and the same. You think Jesse Jackson would have told a Palestinian they're not allowed to speak? And now all these people want to jump on this legacy and say, oh, we're just like him, but they're not. This is why the donor class would not let someone or anyone like Jesse Jackson get in the White House. This is not even a race thing. It's a class thing. Anytime you got this campaign where you're focusing on the working class and you're focusing on what's going to be good for the 99%, yeah, they don't really want you in there. And by they, I mean the donors and Democrat leadership and Republican leadership. I thought this one was really funny. Shout out to Mediocre Auntie says, Democrats showed up to Jesse Jackson's funeral and made it about them. And my people just sat there, listened, and applauded instead of saying something. This is kind of funny here. It's just like, I don't know what to say. I know people were laughing and clapping and applauding and all of that. But if you go back to what the family said before these funerals even took place, they said, do not make this political. And that's what they did. So there are many things that I think they could have said about Jesse Jackson and not bring up the Democratic Party, the Republican Party, any of those things. But you don't use someone's funeral as like a campaign pep rally. I said the same thing about the Charlie Kirk Memorial. You don't use that as like a campaign pep rally. This is a crazy world we live in, guys. So if you look at the comments on social media, people are like, oh my God, like, they're like, what the hell are they doing? And rightfully so. Those people tried to stop the politics of a Jesse Jackson. It's the same people who tried to stop the politics of a Bernie Sanders, which he adopted from Jesse Jackson. But now y'all got all these great things to say. Had the Democratic Party moved in that direction, that populist direction that Jesse Jackson had, you probably wouldn't have Donald Trump in the White House right now. That's the irony of it. Hey guys, this was a Sabby clip. If you like what you saw, hit that like button and subscribe.